Not even Memorial Day, and here we have a black man killed by a white police officer. Now available in paperback. Those who refuse the gift of eternal life are condemned to wander in the darkness of eternal night. Get your copy of Eternal Night at online booksellers today. A couple of days ago, 20-year-old Daunte Wright was shot and killed by a white female police officer, Kim Potter, during a traffic stop in Minnesota. Now, your Daunte Wright was stopped by Officer Potter for having some trees on his rear view mirror, and as she ran his background, she soon found that he had a warrant for not appearing in court. And as she was trying to arrest your Duante Wright for not appearing in court for this warrant, a struggle ensued. And as she was allegedly trying to stop Duante Wright from resisting arrest, she called for her taser but then pulled out her service weapon and then shot and killed Duante Wright. Now, when I take a critical examination of this whole incident with the murder of Duante Wright, I just see it as yet another incident that shows how little regard your police officers have for black people. Because I really do not believe that your officer Kim Potter went out here and made a mistake and chose her firearm accidentally, because there's a big difference between a taser and a firearm in the hand of an officer. Now, I believe that your Kim Potter, again, a 26-year veteran of the force who was, I believe, a union president and trained other officers, definitely knew the difference between a taser and her service revolver, but still chose to pull her service weapon. And I believe she chose to pull that service weapon with malice of forethought. And the reason why I believe she chose to pull that service weapon with malice of forethought is because I believe your Kim Potter was angry about your Duante Wright having the audacity to resist arrest and resist the authority of a white female. And I believe that that was one of the main reasons why she pulled that service weapon, is because this black male had the audacity to defy her when she was arresting him. So I really don't believe that whole story she's trying to spin in the mainstream media, trying to tell us, oh, she made a mistake and chose her service weapon over a taser. Because a 26-year veteran of the force knows the difference between the taser on their weapon belt and their service revolver on their weapon belt, because they are probably on two separate sides of the body, and a seasoned 26-year veteran of the force is going to know the difference between where those two weapons are situated. Moreover, they're going to know that they both have two different, completely different feels in the hand. Because a taser, which is a plastic weapon, feels lighter than a service weapon. A weapon usually is a cold steel feel, and it has a little bit of weight on it. So, and even in a heat of a moment, an officer is going to know the difference between these two weapons, because that's all part of their training. And again, an officer who is supposed to be someone who trains other officers is going to know the difference between the feel of those two weapons before they go out here and take that weapon out in a arrest situation. And I again believe that again your Kim Potter clearly knew the difference between the two, and I believe she knew what she was doing when she took out that weapon. I don't believe it was an accidental discharge. I believe it was an intentional discharge, and I believe it was an intentional act to take the life of Daunte Wright because, in her eyes, this Daunte Wright was another one of these Pookies, and in her eyes, this Pookie had the audacity to defy an officer of her position and her authority. And somebody with her 26 years on the force, she felt that this male had no right to defy her, so she wanted to go out here and show this male who was the boss in this situation. And I believe that's what happened here in the case of your Kim Potter and your Duante Wright, because again, a 26-year veteran, again, is going to know the difference between where their taser is positioned and where their service weapon is positioned on their belt. And they're going to know the difference between their hands. No matter how emotional they are or how tense the situation is, they are going to know where their weapons are. Now, in response to your Kim Potter going out here and, as I see it, murdering Duante Wright, we have seen the Minnesota Police Department go out of their way to cover for this white female, the same way they have covered for other white females like Amber Geiger, and I believe the woman who killed the black man in Oklahoma. I think her name is Betty something, but we see the gynocentrism starting to take place. Now, most black people are not aware of the chess game being played right now, but I can see the chess game being played as related to this Daunte Wright murder. And what's happening now is they're looking to cover for this white female, and part of covering for that white female is protecting that white woman's money, and then later on they'll go out of their way to protect her reputation. Now, the police department and the prosecutor's office and the governor and the mayor, I believe, are out here. They went to protect your Kim Potter by telling her to resign. And I believe also her lawyer probably told her to resign, because if she resigns, then what happens is her pension is protected, and if she resigns, she doesn't have to worry about losing her police pension or her retirement benefits as a result of this shooting. So that was a chess move that was played on your black community, who is so caught up in their feelings they are following the same dysfunctional paradigm as related to the George Floyd murder, going out here and participating in the same usual marching and protesting, and being led like lemmings by your black activists to go out here and march and protest for the murder of another black man. And this is one that's quite troubling, because here we have almost a year after the murder of George Floyd, we have another murder of a black man under a brand new president, and we have the same pattern of actions going on, and sadly, the same pattern of actions going on from black people who clearly have not really learned anything from the summer of chaos that transpired last year. I mean, here we had a summer of chaos over the murder of George Floyd, and people practically tearing up the entire country over the murder of George Floyd. But under the current president, it looks like we're going back to the same codependent business as usual, with your black people continuing to go back to their same old position of marching and protesting, civil rights activists shucking and jiving, and then later on we have a blame and shame game where your black people point fingers as there is no charges filed in possibly a case, or there are light charges filed, or if there are charges filed, eventually what happens is this race soldier winds up getting off, and then we go back to do it again. And instead of us getting any sort of lasting or significant change, we go back to doing the exact same thing. Now, the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result. And many black people, because they get caught up in their feelings whenever a black man is killed by a white police officer, a race soldier, or one of these beta male white or non black suburban commandos, we just go out here and follow the same paradigm to the same failed results, never taking a critical examination of our approaches and realizing that continuing to do the exact same thing is not going to help us achieve anything. I mean, over a decade and over a dozen or so black men killed by police or a race soldier or one of these beta male suburban commandos, and we have the same pattern of events continuing to happen. And every time it happens, we never rarely get to see one of these race soldiers put in prison or one of these beta male suburban commandos put in prison. Nobody ever gets punished for doing harm to black people, and that's because many black people out here, they just continue to think doing the exact same thing will lead to a different result, and that is something that sadly continues to happen. I mean, I thought George Floyd's murder would lead to change, but here we are right in the middle of the trial of George Floyd, and here we have in the exact same state, run by the exact same political party, we have Daunte Wright, a 20-year-old black man, losing his life in the exact same fashion that George Floyd lost his life in a traffic stop, which, not really a traffic stop, but still he was stopped by police. But in this case, it was over something as simple as a tree on a rear view mirror. Now, back in the days, when I was a kid, I didn't think that that was anything criminal, but it seems like anytime a black man is in a car, it's just seen as criminal. And this is they use any sort of reason to target a black man, and they always look for something small to go into something bigger. But when I look again at this case, it shows me how little everything has changed and how we're going right back to business as usual under this new president, and we're not really getting towards change. And most of these black people, they don't see where they're going, how you're just going on a hamster wheel. Here we have black man killed by police. Here we have people out here marching and protesting. And then we have some people rioting. Then we have the same old pattern of, the person now resigns in order to protect their pension and benefits. And then we have what happens is after that, either we'll have what is happening now, where we have the mayor and the DA trying to rig the case, where they're talking about taking the case to the Attorney General's office instead of the county district attorney's office, and again looking to play the same chess moves with black people, where they get checkmated with an acquittal and this person getting off. And most black people aren't really looking at the big picture, and they're not looking at how deeply disturbing this whole situation is, because here we have, again, Duante Wright just right during the trial of George Floyd, showing us that there's a culture as related to the way people see heterosexual black men, and a case again of another case of malice of forethought as I see it, because a 26-year veteran of the force should know the difference between a firearm in her hand and a taser, and there's no mistaking it when you really think about it critically. And we have, again, because we have no black people looking to push an agenda of punishment, we continue to follow this same paradigm. And because we have no black people out here talking about punishment as part of a black agenda for these rogue police officers, these race soldiers, these beta male suburban commandos, and other individuals, they continue to attack black people with impunity. And they continue to attack black people with impunity because black people just continue to participate in the same codependent behaviors, not understanding that as long as we keep going along to get along, following the pattern, people predict the pattern because they know you're not really going to do anything outside of the march, protest, and riot paradigm. And you have to break out of that paradigm because this is what the white supremacist expects of you. He expects you, after the shooting of a police officer, not a police officer, of a black man, to get emotional, to go out here, march and protest, shuck and jive, blamed by these activists. Then there's a blame and shame game. Then we go back to business as usual. But what's really most troubling about this whole situation is that usually these shootings take place in the summertime, and here it is, not even near Memorial Day, and now we've got one shooting. So I'm thinking there might possibly be 2 or 3 more of these shootings, and it's going to send a message to all of those black people who went out here and voted for the leftist candidates, how there's no hope of anything changing, and sadly it's not going to change because you did not vote for a black agenda and you refuse to stand up and punish those who won't go out here and who continue to do wrong by you. Now, when I look at this whole case, again, of this shooting, again, I don't really see it as, oh, it was a mistake. I believe that it was clearly deliberate because, again, a lot of these white females, they know what they're doing, but because we live in a gynocentric society, they look for the white male to give them a pass, and that's what it looks like right here. They're going to try to cover for the white female and give her a pass when she clearly, and as I see it, deliberately knew what she was doing. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my positive African American fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, Eternal Night, The Thetas, and A Recipe for Success, you can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers this April, Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door must take on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess in paperback and e-readers this April.